You need to understand this, all right? Just because the majority wants something doesn't make it right. In fact, our Constitution is designed to protect us from the idiocy of the mob mentality. Slavery is an extreme example of this, right? The majority supported it in the South, but certainly it didn't make it right. Sometimes the majority is wrong. In America, it's happening more and more often. In the name of equality, we are lowering our standards. That hurts far more people than it helps. Look at New York City School District. They're changing the admissions process to the talented and gifted program. School leaders cry there just aren't enough minority kids in the program. This is the New York City chancellor.
The reality is, segregation exists, and I'm not going to shy away from the importance of really looking at the inequities around admissions processes.
All right, look, kids of color make up 70% of the New York City School District, but only a quarter of them are in the gifted and talented program. But here is what the superintendent is missing. No one claims that Black and Hispanic kids are being kept out on purpose. Not even in the district do they claim that. Only that there aren't enough of them meeting the standards for that entry. That's not segregation. That's just reality. So instead of trying to raise the kids up to meet the standards, instead, they just plan on lowering the standards. That hurts the kids who deserve to be there, the white kids and the kids of color. It will also create a culture where people will ask, are you here in this program because you're Black or because you're talented and gifted? That is a slap in the face to every minority kid in that program today and kids that worked so hard to get there.
We are changing screen schools, and more is coming. We are changing the approach to gifted and talented, and more is coming. I think it is a moment for profound change.
Well, of course, somehow this lowering of standards is described as profound change by the New York City mayor there. All, of course, in the name of equality. But it's artificial equality. It's optics. And I promise you, mediocre white kids will not be invited into the program. So how is that equal? Here is where I differ from the elites who suffer from white guilt. You see, I don't believe the color of your skin is a curse. It's not a negative to be corrected. I know this because poor white families suffer the same problems as poor Black families. You have drugs, crime, lack of education, no strong family unit. To me, society's ills are magnified with a lower socioeconomic status. It's not a white or Black thing. It's a money or no money thing. The goal has to be to raise people out of poverty through opportunity, not handouts or gifts or mandatory wages. Boston school districts, let's turn there. They're doing nearly the same thing as New York is. Under the disguise of COVID, though, the district there is suspending tests for advanced learning classes. But the COVID excuse only came after the local PBS station released a story where first the superintendent claimed it was about inequities and racist policies, forcing them to change, which really meant do away with the program altogether. Again, successful students suffer at the expense of government's quest to lower standards to meet society's mediocrity. But lowering our standards is what America does now. The push for socialism is a prime example of this. The government will take care of you, they say. It's a system built on controlling lazy people, that's what I say, by giving them free stuff. The majority of Americans may actually want a system like that, but it doesn't make it right. And that is the beauty of the Constitution. It protects those who want to be free, even if they find themselves in the minority. Well, here's who's tired of lowering their standards. Red states like Texas and Mississippi. Those governors have announced they're done with the unscientific lockdowns, and the states are reopening at 100%. Thankfully, they are scrapping the mask mandates, much to the dismay of the Biden administration.
This entire country has paid the price for political leaders who ignored the science when it comes to the pandemic.
Real leaders agree people still need to mask up.
Texas and Mississippi.
Texas, I think it's a big mistake. The last thing we need is Neanderthal thinking.
Neanderthal thinking. That's the unity president right there. As most of you know, I broadcast from Texas. We're not Neanderthals here, all right? Calling us hillbillies, cowboys, Neanderthals, all right? But the bottom line is his so-called revolutionary COVID plan that he campaigned on is proving to be more of a sham. Every day, by the way. He basically admits it.
When do I think things will get back to normal? I've been cautioned not to give an answer to that because we don't know for sure. But my hope is by this time next year, we're going to be back to normal.
It's unreal, really. It's no wonder states are fed up. Others like Montana and Iowa have also lifted their mask mandates, and I'm sure Florida is not far behind. Well, joining me now from Florida, Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz. Congressman, great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Grant.
Man, I've been trying to get you on for a long time. I'm glad you're here.
No, I appreciate it, and we're grateful that states like Texas and Mississippi are following the Florida model, because here in the Sunshine State, we hope to be a beacon to those who yearn for freedom. And we think that our example is the right one. We've put our students first, our businesses first. We've allowed people to go to church. And we also didn't make some of the dumb decisions they made in blue states like New York, where they were infecting people in the nursing homes with coronavirus. And now there's a question about whether or not that was to please political donors rather than to do the right thing by our citizens. And, you know, we've got this coronavirus response bill, Grant, and it's a total joke. It does almost anything except respond to the coronavirus. It spends hundreds of millions of dollars with globalist organizations. It even spends money here at home on Native American language preservation. I guess those could be useful things, but they don't belong in the coronavirus response. And the whole deal, and you get it as a Texan, is they're trying to pass these bills so that they can subsidize the pathology of lockdowns. There is no subsidy that is better than freedom for our people. That's what we hope we're proven in Florida.
All right, so it is clear to all of us now that the swamp is back. You just spelled out the reasons why. I'm getting word now that earmarks are going to be a big thing. Everybody knows you got a pet project, you stick it in a bill, they'll give you some money, and they're even talking about earmark panels. That will make whoever is on that earmark panel is going to be the most powerful congressman in Washington. What do you make of this quest to go back to this stuff that was banned in 2011?
Well, we already have before us now a supposed coronavirus bill that does more for lobbyists and special interests than it does to respond to coronavirus, and yet now they want to do even more for lobbyists and special interests with earmarks. Make no mistake about it, Grant, my friends in the Freedom Caucus are right. Earmarks are the currency of corruption in Washington, D.C. When they want to get your vote for something that might not be good for our people, well, if they give you an earmark, you might be willing to sell out America and our people for foreign interests abroad or special interests here at home. That's why I oppose earmarks. If something is worthy of consideration, it is worthy within, I think, the broader construct of our appropriations process, not as a one-off, as a political payback to people.
You know, Congressman, it's amazing to me we're talking about earmarks, right? They were basically banned in 2011. A couple members of my team, young people, they didn't even know what earmarks were, which is a great thing. You know, here I hear earmark and I go ballistic on it. But this is back to remind people, bridge to nowhere, these kinds of things, not good for Washington, but this is what you get when Democrats have complete control.
Totally right. I'm grateful that Senator Marco Rubio and others are working in the Senate to try to permanently ban earmarks. I think that would give a lot more credibility to the appropriations process. It would inject some integrity into a legislative system that too frequently doesn't respond to the needs of our fellow Americans, but responds to beltway needs, to people who are powerful inside the swamp of Washington, D.C. I think we need to keep draining that swamp. President Trump might not have gotten the water level all the way down quite yet, but we can see that there are monsters below, and I don't think that the answer is to throw in a bunch more alligators, and that's what the return of earmarks would do.
No, that would not be a good idea by any means. Lastly, I'll let you leave it with this. What are you doing to push back against this? You know, we're so at the mercy of the Democrats with them with the Senate and the House and, of course, the White House. What do you do and what are you telling your constituents? I'll give you 30 seconds if you can.
We have no power as Republicans in Washington, D.C., and so we have to win the argument outside of Washington. We have to go on programs like this. We have to get out in America and talk to people about their freedom, because the dominant political question today is open or closed, free people or occupied people, liberty or restraint. And I think that if we make our argument, and in many places as possible, we'll have a triumphant 2022 election cycle, and we'll begin to bring this country back and make it better than ever before.
Well, you and I are on the same page on that one, Congressman. You know, information is very, very powerful. And when you inform people, educate them about the things that we're for,